Do you love listening to your favorite podcast on Play.it? Sign up today for the Play.it newsletter to receive monthly updates on new podcasts, notable guests, trending shows, and more. Sign up now at playitnewsletter.com. That's playitnewsletter.com. Hear what you've been missing.
This sports podcast on Play.it is powered by DraftKings. Sign up for daily fantasy sports for cash.
A man who wears the 10 pounds of gold, the nature boy, Ric Flair.
You know, I always like to take this opportunity to talk about myself.
The 16-time heavyweight champion has arrived.
I've got the style and profile like never before.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine like, jet flying, son of a gun. Woo!
This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
I'm the man. Ric Flair.
All right, it's time for another Wooooo Nation right here on Play.it. I am the co-host, Conrad Thompson. Ric Flair is actually on location this week. Unfortunately, it's sad to say he is at the funeral of Roddy Piper, which is in Oregon. So he can't be in studio, so we're going to do something just a little different this week. We're going to go ahead and reach Rick by phone. We'll talk a little bit about the unfortunate situation that is Roddy Piper's funeral. Maybe share a few moments about Roddy, and then we're going to move on to something a little different. We're going to call it hashtag Ask Naitch. We might actually make this a regular segment here on the show. The idea is we want to involve you, the fans. So instead of us having a guest, Ric Flair is going to be our guest, and you get to ask the questions. I'm just kind of the medium to make it happen. Rick's calling right now, so let's grab him. Let's get him going. This Wooooo Nation right here on Play.it.
I'll be right back. It's time to shine my 16 world titles.
The moment you've been waiting for is almost here. Football's just around the corner, and you can start the season by winning $2 million in Week 1 at DraftKings.com. That's America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. Rick, $2 million in a week? That's a lot of money.
$2 million, that is half, that's 1.5 times what you make a week.
Well, one-week fantasy means no season long.
You're making $1 million a week.
Well, I think even I am going to DraftKings, Rick.
It's called being Conrad for a day.
Okay, Conrad for a day, except I've never actually made $2 million in a week. Good Lord. It's like a brand new season every time you play, Rick. There's no season-long commitment. We know how much you don't like commitment. And you just pick.
I think it's phenomenally awesome. And the only way to do that is to spell what?
Flair, F-L-A-I-R, right after DraftKings.com. Just pick the players, pile up the points, and pick up your cash. That's it. Why wait until the end of the season to get paid when you can win huge prizes every week? You can get started playing right now. You can prepare for the regular season with these preseason contests that are running through August, and you've already been scouting players for your season-long fantasy team. Why not put all that knowledge to good use and win some cash every week at DraftKings? So hurry to DraftKings.com now and use promo code what?
Capital F, capital L, capital A-I-R, as in Flair. Woo!
To play for a free shot at $2 million in the one-week Millionaire Maker. Enter Flair for free entry now at DraftKings.com. What website, Rick?
DraftKings.com.
DraftKings.com.
Woo! They can become Conrad for a day. Woo! F-L-A-I-R. Woo!
DraftKings.com.
DraftKings.com.
All right, we're going to talk about Casper Mattresses now. And, Rick, you've been doing some traveling. You were in Louisville. Now you've been in Oregon. You've been on a lot of mattresses, but none of them compare to Casper Mattress, do they?
Oh, my God. Since I was on the Casper Mattress, with Wendy finally let me on, I can't sleep in these other hotels.
Well,
I can't do it.
And I bet it's even fun when you're not sleeping. Isn't that right?
Well, it is. I mean, I actually, as I said last week, Wendy has figured out a way to turn the figure 4 over on the Casper mattress. You can't do it in a regular hotel mattress, so we have to be on the Casper.
And the Casper mattress is really one of a kind. It combines premium latex foam with memory foam. It's a hybrid mattress. You can't get this anywhere else. And what's cool about Casper? Well, you get a great deal. Mattresses can cost more than $1,500, but not Casper mattresses. You'll pay only $500 for a twin-sized and only $950 for a king-size bed. They've got something for every budget right now. now, and shopping is easy. You're never going to find out if you really like that bed just going into the store and hanging out for 20 minutes. Even Rick would tell you need 60 minutes or more. You get 100 days. Rick, you had some title reigns that didn't even last 100 days. Isn't that right?
There's just some things I can't talk about because people wouldn't believe it, but that is exactly right. 100 days? Are you kidding me?
It's a risk-free trial. They've got an easy return policy. They've got free delivery and painless returns. Rick, I bet you had some ex-wives you thought had painless returns, right?
Oh, gosh, Conrad. Let's just stay on this subject as long as we can. I'd actually put a couple ex-wives under a Casper mattress.
Well, that's easy to do because they're affordable and they're made right here in America, and you can actually get a great deal on a Casper mattress right now. You just go to Casper.com/Flair. How do we spell that, Rick?
You spell it Flair.
So check it out right now.
Flair, you can spell it Famous.
And that's a good deal, GOOD, at Casper.com/Flair. That's Casper.com/Flair. All right, we're back here on Woo Nation. Our guest this week, Ric Flair. Rick's on the phone with us right now, and unfortunately, Rick, you've just laid one of your very best friends to rest, Mr. Roddy Piper.
Yeah, it was a sad day, but the turnout was amazing. The people from the WWE came, close friends like Bob Orton and Bret Hart, and other personal friends. Of course, I went with Wendy and the writers from WWE, Hunter, Mark Carano, Michael Hayes. So a very nice turnout, and his family was beautiful, and the setting was beautiful, a beautiful little church in the countryside in Beaverton, Oregon. It was phenomenal. Tonight, the kids are all going down to the taping of SmackDown, so it'll be nice. So rejoice. And as usual, the WWE does everything great, and the package they made for him by the video, rather, they made of his life, and that was absolutely phenomenal. It was overwhelming. It was way above the one last week on Raw, so it was phenomenal.
A fitting tribute to Roddy Piper.
Good to go.
Well, yeah, we're doing something a little different this week. Obviously our hearts and minds are still on Roddy Piper, and since Rick is on location in Oregon this week, we didn't really have an opportunity to do a guest the way we normally would, so we did something fun, and Ric Flair's our guest this week, but instead of us asking the questions, we're letting the listeners ask the questions, and you guys have come through really big on our hashtag Ask Naitch campaign. Rick, let's get right into it. This is a great question here from Ethan Blevins. He asks on Facebook, how do you feel about the possibility of John Cena tying your World Heavyweight Championship record and then possibly surpassing it?
I don't dwell on that. People ask me all the time. I'd be thrilled if John Cena tied my record and surpassed it. I mean, that's one of those things that I don't lose sleep over how many times I've been the world champion. And on top of that, if he ever does do that, then I'll have to play the 21-time champion card. So, I had to leave it a few times on the islands when it was too hot to take with me. So, but I went back and got it. So, and we did that in Australia too. So, no, I'm not worried about that. I think the world of John. He's been the flagship for the company for a long time, and if John were to gets that title again and he can surpass the record, I'd be very proud. Be very, very, very proud of him. He's worked hard.
So let me ask you a question. You kind of mentioned you had to leave it on an island a few times. One of those times that kind of gets around on the internet is a trip to Puerto Rico. Is that right?
Santo Domingo.
Okay, Santo Domingo. Tell me that story for people who maybe haven't heard it or it's been a while since they've heard it.
Well, I was working for Carlos Colon in the Caribbean. I went down there a lot in the 80s. As a matter of fact, a lot of us did prior to Brody being stabbed, which I think was in 86. We all went down there a lot, and the business was great, and it was a phenomenal place to make money. It was fun, and we took our wives, and, the Caribbean can be beautiful year-round. So they asked me to go to Santo Domingo at the last minute. When I was there, the rest of this guy named Jack Veneno, and Santo Domingo is a militarized state, government-wise. In other words, the government runs the island. So when I got there, I was with George Napolitano, who wrote for wrestling magazines at that time, like Pro Wrestling Illustrated or Wrestling or whatever. And we got there and checked into this beautiful hotel, the Sheraton, And he said, come here and look. And I went over to the window, and we looked out. We're like on 10th floor. And here's this guy, maybe 5'7", 160 pounds, running across the bridge there in San Domingo. And there's about 30,000 people. I mean, the crowd was unbelievable. So lining the streets as far as you could see him. And I said, who's that? And he said, that's the guy you're wrestling tonight. He's training in public for the match. I said,
wow.
Geez, I couldn't believe it, the turnout. So we found out when I got to the building at 5 o'clock, the guy, the promoter, had sold probably as many tickets as there were people to a 10,000-seat stadium. So we had a riot going in, and they turned my cab over, everything. So we got inside the building, and there was no way to communicate, obviously, because the guy spoke, he was Latin and spoke Spanish, and I don't. And so somehow through the communication, we agreed to do something where, like, over there, that instead of doing an hour, we did a half hour. It would be a half-hour draw. Well, at the end of the half hour, he had me in a sleeper, and the referee was raising my hand. And, of course, I got my hand up at 3 when the bell rang. But in the fans' mind, I didn't. So it had a full-scale riot. They came in to the ring. I mean, they were beating the crap out of me. I mean, literally was out of control. And the guards, the police, were such fans of the event, they weren't, protecting anybody. They were, celebrating the moment as well. And so I finally got back in the dressing room, and I stayed there, probably 2 hours, and they took me back out in an ambulance, back to the hotel.
Wow.
Yeah, so then the irony of this thing is that they wanted me to come back, and I said I'd go again, to win the title back, if I could take Piper with me, Roddy, right?
Right.
Because this is before Roddy went to WWE. And Roddy said, yeah, I'll go, man, what the heck? So Roddy, of course, as eccentric as he was, he said, well, I'll carry the American flag out and all that. I said, geez, Roddy, you don't understand. This crowd is not good. The idea was that Roddy was going to trip him, right? And then I cover him 1, 2, 3. Well, the minute Roddy touched his foot, we had another full-scale riot. And the belt, we just left it again. And Roddy and I were in the building for 6 hours. They literally tore down half the building. So
back when heat was heat, right there.
That's back when heat was heat. When wrestling was wrestling. When there was no kayfabe.
That brings up another great question. I forget exactly who asked it. I've got a stack of fantastic questions from our listeners online who got behind hashtag Ask Naitch. How do you feel about kayfabe no longer being prevalent in the business? Is it a slap in the face to the old school, or is just times have changed?
I think at first it was a slap to the face, but here's the deal: you can either be old school or you can work.
Right.
And you've got to, times have changed, and not just in our sport. They've changed in professional business. They've changed in politics. They've changed at every level. And obviously, sports entertainment was a tough word for us to swallow how many years ago, but it is what it is. And the fans are privileged to know more than they ever have. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not. For the most part, I think I struggled with it more a long time ago than I do now. Now I just pretty much, I don't think that they're always right, but I do understand that they're all entitled to an opinion. And guys like Dave Meltzer and Mark Madden and a guy like yourself that studies our business, we're never in it, but you guys have valid opinions. And actually, our friendship, over 2 years ago, it started over wrestling. And I mean,
yeah,
you're a guy that loved it, and you don't need wrestling. You make $1 million a month anyway. As I will continue to tell the world, and I want to go to work for you.
That's a record.
As soon as I get back from Portland.
That's a record for as fast as you've worked that into the show.
Love it, and, they need more fans like you. I mean, here's a guy that doesn't need to do anything and is very successful in private business, but you love wrestling, and that's a great thing for us.
And another question that we got quite a bit on this campaign was people who kind of want to know the backstory behind WrestleMania 8. Ben on Facebook asked, why did Vince change the main event? It was supposed to be a WrestleMania 8 dream match with you and Hulk Hogan. What happened there, and why do you think they kind of flipped the script on that one?
Well, actually, I don't know that was ever booked, and that was never promised to me. that's an illusion that people have. When I got there, he said that's a possibility, but at the same time, I knew that Hulk wanted to go out and do the show called Thunder in Paradise, and they weren't getting along. And, I guess they decided to go another way. And to make sure, in case he left early, they put us in arenas all over the country several times. What some people said was a cash flow problem. I've never heard an explanation. But it wasn't promised to me, and ultimately I ended up wrestling Randy, which was great. And do I think it would have been a great moment? But it's nothing that I lose sleep over. You know what I mean? I still was there, and people think that was a great match. I don't think it was a great match, but it was a great honor for me. And to walk out in front of 75,000 people in Indianapolis was pretty cool.
Carl on Facebook asked a great question.
A month before, I was in Spartanburg in front of 1,800 people with WCW.
Yeah, that was a little different. We'll give you that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So Carl from Facebook asked a great question that's kind of a follow-up to that, because you've mentioned a couple of times not losing sleep over stuff. And Carl asks, what's your biggest regret in the business? Do you have a regret in the business?
Oh, God. I told you before that the only regret I have is that I didn't stand up for myself more. But, I found it to be exhausting. And when I'm not having fun, I'm not good at what I do. And where I could have sat there and argued like everybody else did, and you know me, Conrad, very well now. If I'm not having fun, I'm not good at what I do. If I'm laughing and enjoying myself and, able to perform without worrying about what somebody's saying or thinking or worried about the outcome, I'm really good at what I do. But when I'm constantly at odds with somebody and people are, trying to get you to do stuff you don't want to do, I just gave up and said yes. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do I wish I'd stood up more? I probably do. But at the end of the day, I'm in the Hall of Fame twice. I'm very happy. And my daughter is going to be probably the greatest greatest diva wrestler of all time. She's on her way. And I have a great relationship with the company, whereas a lot of guys don't, because they couldn't change with the times, and they were hard to get along with, Vince, when I just think I wanted to retire, Vince called me and said, "You're retiring." I said, "Okay." But look what it worked out. I wrestled with Shawn Michaels, and what people consider a great match. If it's considered great, it's only because Shawn Michaels carried me for 30 minutes. I could pull it off, but he certainly did the 99% of the work. But it goes down in history. I have that retirement, my hour-long retirement speech, which to this day people make fun of. But I had the greatest retirement and the greatest week of all. And then on Monday they popped the farewell on Raw for me. So who in sports has ever had that in any sport? So I watched the Canton Hall of Fame just as you did,
right?
And I didn't see anything even resembling what I had in Orlando, Florida. So,
do you think that was your greatest day in the business?
What's that?
Was that one of your greatest days in the business, or what was one of your greatest?
The whole weekend is my greatest weekend. I threw that expression, my greatest, like Starrcade, when I won the belt for the second time. Harley was a huge moment, because that gave me the opportunity to prove myself as a professional wrestler. I knew what I was doing at that point in time. The first time around, even though I thought I was good, I wasn't. Second time around, I learned the ropes, and I was prepared to go out there and work with different people that didn't have the skill level that a lot of people needed to have at that time to be successful. So that was my job, and I liked it. And so that was obviously a huge moment. Wrestling Undertaker in Toronto was a huge moment for me. The age of 54, that really got my self-confidence back. It's hard to say what was the biggest moment, but I think I normally would answer that question by saying my retirement weekend.
Let's talk about something fun. Chris on Facebook asked a question that we got multiple different ways. Facebook, Twitter, all over the place. You're going to like this one. What was your biggest bar tab?
Oh, gosh. In one night?
Yeah, it had a comma in it. I'm sure of that.
Oh, yeah. I tell you what it was. I was at SummerSlam in London. And my bar tab the night before was $3,600.
You talked about that in your Hall of Fame speech. I remember that.
Day in London, and then I beat that out when I was back at the Crockett Cup in Baltimore, and I went to check out of the Harbor Master Marriott, or the Inner Harbor Marriott in Baltimore, and it was $4,100. Those are the two record beers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. Not good.
Oh, it's freaking phenomenal. Hey, Walt from Facebook asks, what's the funniest thing that happened during a match that made you break up? So you're trying to be serious, you're putting on a wrestling clinic, you're at a show, something happens, and you just can't contain it. It's the funniest thing that happened. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, I can tell you the funniest moment I think I ever had. It was a 6-man tag. It was me, Hunter, and Batista against Jericho, Shawn, and somebody else in a 6-man tag. And Hunter had taken a, like a health bar. What do they call those things? A
protein bar, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and broke it in half and put it in the bottom of his trunk. So we did that spot where they did the sunset flip, right, and pulled our tights, and all three of us are going around the ring. And Jericho sunset flipped Hunter, and he pulled his tights down, and the chocolate bar fell in Jericho's mouth. Yeah, the place went crazy with insanity, and Jericho went crazy. You kidding me? Oh, yeah.
That's phenomenal. Even I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Casey Stelkin on Facebook has a great question. What was it like watching the NWO angle where they beat David when you were cuffed to the ropes? Was your emotion a work or a shoot? I know you covered it in your book, but it's worth talking about again.
Say it again one more time.
Back in WCW, the NWO, specifically Hulk Hogan, took the belt out and beat David and handcuffed you in the ring, and you had to watch. And you talked about it a little bit in your book, but it's worth talking about again. What was that like as a father? How much of that was real? How much of that was just a work?
Well, it was all very real. It was uncalled for, and of course I brought it up to Hulk, but at the same time, it's a no-win situation. I can't be whining for him. I just pulled Hulk aside and said, "We'll accept it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But David didn't want me to say anything. He took it like a man, and he really wanted to be successful in the business and didn't want to start out his first opportunity, by complaining and whining. And I think at the end of the day, David felt really good about himself. I know he went out with Iron and had a couple of beers, and I had Reed was at the show too. The Iron event, so it was Charleston, West Virginia. It was a great time, and Arn took David out. They had a good time, and in the business, sometimes you just got to roll with the way it goes. I don't like it, but if I'd gone and complained about David getting beat up, then what does that make David look like? You know what I mean? You have to learn how to fight your own battles.
A lot of questions online on our hashtag Ask Naitch campaign about David. People want to know what he's up to these days. What do you want to tell everybody about what David Flair's up to these days?
Big Dave is very happily married with two beautiful children, 2 grandkids, Piper and Carter. And he lives in Shelby, which is 40 miles from Charlotte, and his family, his in-laws, own a old-time wire company, like a baling wire type company.
Right.
And they have purchased some new equipment and are continuing to stay in business, and they do quite well at it, and he's extremely happy. He's playing fantasy football, safer and healthier.
Less bumps there, that's for sure. Probably less bar tabs, too, if I had to guess.
Yeah, he'll get so much fun with you.
Absolutely. Great guy.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing him again.
Thanks.
Sean from Facebook asks, and this is a fun question, you'll get a kick out of this one. If there was a movie based on your life and career, which actor would you want to play the part?
If they were going to do what now, a movie on me?
If they're going to do a movie on you and you got to cast the Ric Flair character, what actor would you tap to play you?
Well, one of them's dead and one of them's so old. The original would have been Errol Flynn. And then Sean Connery. I don't know who could play me.
That'd be awesome.
It would certainly be an Academy Award-winning role.
I don't know that anybody could do it like you can.
There's a lot of material there.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure of that. Absolutely sure of that. Sean Fuller from Facebook wants to know, what was your favorite promo to cut? You've got a lot of famous ones, lots of love on YouTube these days with those old promos. Does one stick out to you as saying, man, I nailed that one? That's probably my favorite.
The one where I handcuffed myself in Baltimore with me and Gene and stripped on my clothes. That's some of the classics. Gene would say, "Oh God, here comes the laundry again." And I had another one like that with Roddy, where Roddy was chasing my clothes around the ring as I was throwing it. So I could get pretty crazy. It was entertaining. I mean, and who couldn't play off a guy like Gino, as great as he was, and Jim Ross. I mean, when you got people like that running the questions by and having fun, and the facials that go along with it, who could go wrong with an opportunity like that?
Nobody sent this one in, but I want to participate. I want to play hashtag Ask Naitch. If you were gonna have one more match, and anybody in history could be the commentator and be on the call for you, you could have Lance Russell, you could have Gordon Soley, you could have Jim Ross, you could have anybody you wanted. Who would you pick?
Jim Ross. Yeah, he's the best play-by-play guy of all time. I loved Gordon, but Gordon had his own style. Jim could raise his voice for the level of excitement, you know what I mean? And I got to go. I think that it's hard to say one was better than the other, but Jim Ross was, he made a lot of guys look good, really good. He made a lot of chicken salad out of chicken shit.
That's a turn of a phrase right there. I've always wondered too. We hear these legendary stories of you staying out and having a good time and going to bed really, really late or really early, depending on your perspective. But then you're back up again and on the Stairmaster and working out first thing. What drove you back in the day? It would have been really easy to hit cruise control and just kind of rest on your laurels, but there was something driving you. Was it just being competitive within the industry, trying to outwork a specific person, or just trying to prove something to yourself?
Just wanting to be the very best I could be every day. And that working out thing was just part of my life, and I'm fortunate that I had that. I knew that it's kind of like me now. If I let it go past noon, it ain't going to happen. So why not knock it out in the morning? The sooner when I'm with you, the sooner I work out, the sooner I can have a beer. The hell.
Well, I've actually experienced that.
By the Conradison, and I just slide over there, and I come back and meet you, and we start at the Mexican place at noon and end up at Ruth's Chris at 10 o'clock at night. It's not a bad day. And I let you buy.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Sean Gallagher online wants to know, what was your...
You took me to Ruth Chris, I ordered one of everything.
That's actually a fun story. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I figured if you were insisting on buying, I would have some of the menu.
Well, hell, you did. That's for sure. We got two sashimi tunas. We got the big chopped salad.
I got the big ribeye.
Triple extra hearts of palm.
We had calamari.
Yeah, there was calamari, there was oysters, there was shrimp. Yeah, it was pretty much the whole menu.
For your place. Thanks. People wonder why I have issues. Jesus Christ.
Well, moderation is not really in your vocabulary, and that's why we love you so much.
Something. It's like my banker used to say, you're incorrigible.
Roberto Mann is a big fan of yours. I actually met him online this week. He's the guy behind the Ric Flair Was There Twitter and Facebook that you and I've had fun with like 50 Shades of Flair and all that type stuff. And he has a question. He writes in, was Curt Hennig ever supposed to be a real member of the Horsemen, or was it always booked as a swerve from the beginning?
Was it always booked as who?
Was it always booked as a swerve where he was going to turn, or did you guys think he was going to join and then the next week it had changed?
It was booked that he was going to be a Horseman, and then, when it got over so good, and the next day, of course, God forbid something be good with me in that situation, they turned it. And it killed the town.
Yeah.
Did the War Games up in
South Carolina, right?
Sold out every year, and in that case, the bad guys went over and it killed the town. So they had fun playing with it, but it didn't do any business for anybody.
Lee on Facebook asks, we all know that Olivia Walker made your robes and Clifford Macias made your boots, but we don't know who made your trunks. Where'd you get your trunks?
Carl and Hildegard.
Where's he out of? I've not heard that name.
They're somewhere in Missouri.
Okay. So would that be somebody that Harley put you on, or how would you have ran across him?
What's that?
Would Harley have put you up with that guy, or did you just find him on your own, or was that?
No, he was just the guy. Someone just said you could go to Carl and Hildegard back when I started.
Cool.
I wish Wahoo was the one to turn me on the Clippers Matthias. Just what I needed was I was making $50 a week, and I needed a $200 pair of boots in 1972. That's what I needed. That beginning of the end. It had the snowball effect.
It was all downhill from there, brother. Nick Perkins on Facebook wants to know, what was your favorite feud while you were part of the Four Horsemen? Do you have one that really stuck out in your mind to say, man, this is a lot of fun, whether it was Dusty?
Stuff with Dusty, by far. Anything involving Dusty and the Road Warriors and Sting or Nikita or Luger, that group, that was, anything that Dusty was in the middle of was the best feud. For the Horseman, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, everybody enjoyed that stuff, especially the beatdown.
That was the vintage time of the Horseman. There were so many diluted versions that, you as a fan, you watched it. Sometimes you just can't replace what is just so good, and it was just that good.
Hey, so settle this debate for us. Was Jeff Jarrett ever a Horseman?
No, I think they talked about doing it, but that never worked out at all.
Yeah, there's a big debate online as to whether or not he's considered a real Four Horseman, but I guess we just got the story from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it's funny. I know that it was a diluted version. I mean, no, I don't think so. I know Sid and Romo were, which was travesty in itself. But I don't think Jeff would have. And Jeff's a great worker. He would have been great, but it never did take place that I'm aware of.
Rob Stone on Twitter asks, did any female companion ever try to blackmail you?
Did any female companion ever try to blackmail me? Well, Wendy did.
That worked out.
How many mean female companion? What do you mean? What is a female companion?
Well, as you would say, some chick I hooked up with wouldn't leave me alone and was threatening to call my house and blah, blah, blah.
Jesus Christ. No, that has never happened.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've heard stories about different guys who have different random stalkers who just show up in towns and stuff. But
I've had that before, but that was something I couldn't handle. No.
Bill Clark asks a fun one. He asks, how were WCW and WWE rings different, and which did you prefer?
I actually like WCW better because they were smaller. But I got used to it. As a matter of fact, when I first got to WWE, I couldn't do the flip on the rings because I didn't have the spacing down. My footing, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of being thrown in a 12-footer or 14-foot it was like 4 feet bigger going across. It took me a while to get it, and then I got it down to it. So yeah.
Another question
it's all good. I like the rings, the WCW rings better, but that's because there was a guy named Wally Dusek that made those. Of course, Wally passed away. It's a lost art to make a really nice ring. I see some of these rings now at independent wrestling shows, and I don't know how the guys work in them. Not because it's so hard. It's just the fact that the ropes are, real skinny and real thin. And, we're just spoiled. If you work for the WWE, you're spoiled because the product, the material that you're able to work with, the rings and the chairs and the steps that are going up, everything is it's almost like handcrafted. So it's great stuff.
So talk a little bit about the rope difference. We've heard through the years guys say that the WCW ropes were made out of cable and the WWF ropes were made out of ropes. Is there a difference when you're running the ropes and that type of stuff, or does that not really matter?
I've heard both those stories. I don't know the difference. I could never tell. I know the WWE ropes because remembering they had Andre and people like that working up there. They really put those rings together. Because they can't have. I've seen rings break where guys have gone over the top rope and it snapped.
Wow.
They've got Big Show running the ropes now, so they have those rings put together for safety. They're safety is their number one priority.
Another fun question. You mentioned him, Andre the Giant. That's actually a question that we got on Facebook. Did you ever make Andre mad or see Andre mad?
I never made him mad. No, he liked me. Fortunately, I have seen him get mad. Yeah, he didn't like Bam Bam Bigelow, and he didn't like John Studd. Not good for either one of them.
Colin asked a great question on Facebook. You're going to get a kick out of this one. Barring what we talked about last week, how much rod can you take? What was the best line you heard used on the road?
The best line I've ever heard on the road. Are we talking about
girls, ladies?
Give it to a woman?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir. The ladies.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, you could be the one, or don't be afraid because I've gotten older. I say to live the legend.
I've seen that one. That's money.
Dare to dream.
Dare to dream. Oh, that's the best.
As I've gotten older, I probably don't have the ability to back all that shit up, so I write it down. I don't verbalize it.
Hey, that was actually a good question.
I slide it over on a wet napkin.
We got a tweet from Tifosi, who says, when you cut your promos, was it always off the top of your head, or did you pre-plan them? And considering what you just said.
Off the top of my head, man. Off the top of my head.
When did that change? Just when you went to the WWF the second time?
When I went the second time, yeah. And even though they gave me a lot of leeway, it's just like, it's the hardest thing to, of course, that's business changing, was memorizing bullet points.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the bullet points are a very important part of the promos that guys have to cut now. You're talking about the date of the event, the name of the event. We've got 12 different pay-per-views, and they run, continuously year-round. And then you've got the date, and then you got to remember the thing, no DQ, triple threat. I mean, it's a lot to remember and still be creative. That's why they like the guys to rehearse them. But with me, up until the end, I always had Ed walking around with me, making sure I was okay. But they gave me a little leeway. I had to have it. I couldn't be creative if I sat there and word for word. And for the most part, if your argument is something that they will take into consideration, they'll give you the slack. Or not they, Vince will. There is no they, by the way.
Yeah, they is Vince.
Yeah, they is Vince. The is Vince.
I like that. Yeah. Big Papa Chuck online asks, was Carlito pissed?
Sorry. Yes, that 80s heel don't get over anymore. Yes, sir. Okay.
What does that even mean? What is an 80s heel?
Huh?
What does that even mean, though? What is an 80s heel? A heel's a heel, right?
Well, this was in 2000, and I started cutting promos like I was doing in the 80s. 80s heel don't get over you. He forgot about it the next day, but it was relevant at that moment.
Well, one of your best
in that room when you watch that match you just had, and tell me why in the hell you got slammed off the top rope. Why do you do that every night? And I told him, Harley told me to, but I learned it from Harley.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Get out, huh?
You said something on a podcast once that we never followed up with on air. I could swear that you mentioned that slam off the top rope, and you referred to it as the 10-minute slam. What does that mean? Is that 10 minutes into the match, or 10 minutes from the end of the match, or what does that mean?
I don't know. I never heard it called that. I never thought like that. I just know that as it going on, it'd be Jerry Lawler would say, or Jim Ross would go, 54-year-old Ric Flair climbs up the top post, and his Lawler would say something smart like it was a gimme, right? So, and just one day when he went off and said, who taught you that, man? Oh, he made me go. Dean Malenko brought me the tape of the match and made me go look in the cafeteria and watch it over, and then go talk to Vince in the office and explain why I was doing that. And so when I went in there and said, Harley Race taught me that, he said, get out.
It's hard to argue with that. Harley Race taught me that.
All the ladies love Slick Rick. You know they love Wooooo Nation, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Do you love listening to your favorite podcasts on Play.it? Sign up today for the Play.it newsletter to receive monthly updates on new podcasts, notable guests, trending shows, and more. Sign up now at playitnewsletter.com. That's playitnewsletter.com. Hear what you've been missing.
This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
Big Papa Chuck online. This is one of your best promos he's asking about. Was Carlito pissed he did that promo on him at Raw, questioning his heart and desire? Did he know that was coming? Probably one of your better promos of your last WWE run. Tell us the story about that and kind of what went into that promo.
Well, that's a great story because I had just had the biggest argument with Vince of all time about something I didn't like what he was having me do, and I never argued with him, but it was something. And he and I we really had an argument, and I was in a terrible mood. And they came running up to me. Bruce Pritchard was the agent, and something happened with Carlito that they were upset about. And he was leaving the building with Torrie Wilson, and Bruce Pritchard said, "Vince wants you to cut a promo on it that really sounds real." I don't know. I was so pissed off at Vince. I said, "Well, no problem, Bruce." Carlito was never mad. I pulled him aside later on and said, "You know, I'm just going along with the story here."
It was a hell of a promo. If you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube. I'm
sure
it's there.
The promo got over so good. I was supposed to work with Kennedy at WrestleMania, so they changed that and booked me with Carlito, and then they canceled the match the week of WrestleMania. Jesus. Screwed myself.
Well, it happens. Bill Clark asks, was there ever anyone you refused to work with? And if so, why?
No.
I didn't think you would have
everybody.
I didn't think you'd have an answer there.
There were times I wish I could have said no.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's actually a question that we got on the Wrestling Observer message board. I would love an episode with Flair discussing his NWA title matches against regional guys like Wendell Cooley, Cousin Jr. in Kansas City, Sam Samoan in Hawaii, Rip Oliver in Portland, the Haitian Sensation in Florida, Coco Samoa in Portland, Marty Jannetty in KC back in '85, Hercules Aaliyah, and a lot more. What was it like working with these guys who didn't yet have a national name? Were these matches harder? Were the promoters easier to deal with since he was the champ, et cetera, et cetera?
Actually, working with all those guys, and I remember all but a couple of those names. That's how you learn how to work, by working with different people. So I don't remember any of those guys being difficult at all. The promoters the promotions back then weren't nearly as sophisticated as they are now. You know what I mean?
Right.
The promotions aren't as sophisticated as the business as the promotion is now. But the promoters back then were trying to make the money. The champion came in and they spent about a month getting their best guy ready, and then you wrestled him in every town in the promotion for a week, and then you went about your business and went to another territory. But I don't remember. There were only a couple of guys. It was hard wrestling Bob Brown. It was hard wrestling Rufus R. Jones. I mean, for an hour, in front of 200 people, it was a long night.
You've mentioned
those are the two guys I probably had the worst time with. Not because they weren't nice guys, it's just nobody came to the match. Nobody cared.
Right.
An hour in front of 200 people, that you and I do that at the Mexican place drinking light beer.
We've done that many times.
Like that?
All right, so we've done that many times. Let's do a little fantasy booking right here. Goatface, what a hell of a name that is, on Twitter, asks, if you could assemble a horseman from today's group of talent, who would you pick? That's a great question.
Hunter, Orton, guys that are working full-time. Is Hunter in that group?
I wouldn't say Hunter counts. You could make Orton a case for Orton.
Well, Orton, Randy Orton's the best worker in the business.
Yes.
I've been on record saying that, but he is the best performer in the business. He'd be the number one guy. And I think that he'd have a level of comfort with, I think he'd like Ziggler. Ziggler can work. He's smaller than Randy, but he's a hell of a hand. I mean, he really is a good performer. I think, I really like Seth Rollins, too. I mean, if you put those guys together and one more guy, who would the fourth guy be? I know I'm missing somebody here.
You like Cesaro?
Who'd be great in that fourth spot because he's kind of obnoxious. Is The Miz.
That's a great call. I like that one.
It's because he's obnoxious and he comes across as he's irritating, and he's a good hand. You had those four guys together. I mean, in some type of a group now, with Randy being the lead guy, they'd be as good as anybody that ever come down the road.
Hard to argue that. We've got another fun question.
They're never going to put Randy in something like that again. Randy is too valuable as a single.
Okay, so let's go down that road. If you had to pull Randy out and throw another fourth person in, now maybe since he's the champ, Seth is the leader, who would the fourth person be? You got The Miz, you got Ziggler. Cesaro. Okay.
Yes, the match the other night between Cesaro and Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. I missed the main event with Randy and Seth, but that three-way they had was unbelievable. Where Randy caught, I guess it was Kevin. No, he caught Cesaro with the
RKO.
It was the RKO. I can never remember all these names. God only knows I took it enough times.
Yeah, the Legend Killer. He did get you with that one.
What's that?
The Legend Killer got you with that one, that's for sure.
Yeah, you kidding me? The Legend Killer. That's where he practiced it on. We'll just have you beat Flair again on Raw tonight. It was easier than taking the Stone Cold Stunner.
That's the best line from the podcast so far to me. It's last week when you said, I lost 10,000 matches and I only won 16. That's awesome.
The truth. My
That's
record
fantastic.
is 16 wins and 10,000 losses.
Until John Cena gets 17 title wins, and then it's 21 and 10,000.
None of those 16 were with the figure four. 8 of them were outside interference.
Judd on Twitter asks, outside of the Mid-Atlantic territory, what was your favorite territory to work? Portland, Dallas, Florida, etc.
Florida. Make no mistake.
Now, I think I know the answer, but why was Florida so much fun?
Because of West Shore Boulevard, the Ocean Club, Yucatan Liquor Stand, the Dollhouse. There was a variety of restaurants right there on the road.
And they had some ladies in there who were a hell of a hand?
The ballet place on West Shore was the best, right across from the Marriott. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've been listening to the podcast, you see us winking at you when he says ballet, too.
Yeah. Ballet is what you call it.
Hey, it's a good story. It gets me in less trouble. Jason on Twitter asks, your first time in the WWF, do you think even you could have gotten over the dreaded Red Rooster gimmick?
I don't know. I mean, let me tell you something. I didn't have to redo it, but I came close to being Spartacus, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know what would be worse, being Spartacus with the earring or being a Red Rooster.
I'm going to go with Red Rooster may have been worse.
It's the funny thing is Terry Taylor was a really good performer.
Absolutely, yeah. Nobody would argue that.
He could tear it down.
Juan Pablo asks a great question. If you could choose next year's Hall of Fame class, who would you pick and why? We already know Wahoo McDaniel's on your list. Who else is on the list?
It would be Wahoo McDaniels. It would be Michael Hayes. It would be Torrie Wilson. I thought about this when you sent that to me. It would be I'm trying to figure out the timetable on this stuff. But for sure, Michael Hayes, he was a huge card in the Dallas area.
Now, when you put him in, you put him in with the Freebirds, right?
I would, of course, it's the Freebirds. But, I mean, Michael Hayes has accomplished so much because he could go in either way. But in Dallas, it would be the Freebirds because they threw huge money with the Von Erich family. Huge money. Yeah, and there's a ton of guys that would want to induct Michael, too, or induct the Freebirds. Torrie Wilson, I think, was a big-time star here and a really nice person. And then I think Wahoo McDaniels is long past due. But I also thought that Ray Stevens should go in out there in San Urbane and did so.
Do you know the story on that? Do you know why he didn't?
because they didn't want to induct two people that had passed.
Oh, I
one
see.
being Randy and the other being Ray.
Right, I see that.
But I think Wahoo being from Texas and being such a huge star, my gosh. I'm not sure how much footage they have on Wahoo. That's the problem. But
we'll be right back with the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dean, son of a gun, Naitch boy, Ric Flair. Woo! On Woo Nation.
There's something for every sports fan on CBSLocalSports.com. Watch live radio shows and original video programming while reading national articles from some of the best writers in the country. Visit CBSLocalSports.com today.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again. This is Woo Nation with Ric Flair.
We had a great question from Brian Nance on Facebook about Wahoo. Can you talk about the feud with Wahoo in 77-76? I was in Greensboro for many of those matches. 30-plus stitches from a table leg? I don't think I heard that one. What's the story with Wahoo and 30 stitches?
Okay. Well, it's right. What happened is it's right after I came back from the plane crash. We shot an angle. Klondike Bill was a guy that rang the bell back then, and he was supposed to gimmick the table leg on a table at ringside in Charlotte. Well, when Wahoo threw me out of the ring, I broke the table, and I tore the leg off, and I didn't see the nail there, and I hit Wahoo over the head with it. He had 36 stitches right in the top of his head. Boom.
Wow.
A nail. I mean, I nailed Wahoo right. Hit me with it. Hit me. So I hit him with it. He was bleeding like crazy. Wahoo was a great performer. The boy, he gained weight later on in his career, but when I first met him, when he was in the 235 to 240 pound weight area, he was unbelievable.
What made Wahoo so great?
Huh?
What made Wahoo so great?
Well, I think it's his ferocious character, number one, and he loved the business, and he would do anything to get a match over. I mean, and he was incredibly tough guy. He still holds the Orange Bowl record for the longest punt.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
I don't think that's one broke yet. He played on Bud Wilkinson's team that was, they won 31 in a row at Oklahoma?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Not that a guy from Alabama would follow any of that.
No, those are losers. We only follow winners down here.
Okay.
Speaking of winners, you've got to be a winner to do 500 squats in a day. And MB on Facebook wants to know, were the 500 squats in a row, or did you get like breaks in between?
No, I got where I could do 500 in a row. And I got where I could do that after I got out of the hospital last year again. Yeah, it takes me about 14 minutes.
You're telling me right now you can do 500 squats in 14 minutes right now?
Today? No, but I'll do it for you if you give me a week to get ready.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
easy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We got another question from Michael Cole. Probably not the one.
Another one. I used to do the deck of cards where it was 440 push-ups, 440 free squats, and 440. If you make the jokers 20 and the face cards 20, it's like 440 of each. So if you crunch the squats and push-ups in 42 minutes.
So you're like the original CrossFit. Well, now we just figured out how you could do all those Broadways. Good Lord.
Yeah. Anything to kill the time.
Michael Cole on Twitter asks, are you considering another book? Just finished To Be the Man and love it.
Yes, we are. Matter of fact, it's in the works with WWE right now.
Daniel Crawley on Facebook asks, which small towns in the mid-Atlantic Crockett territories had the hottest crowds during the 80s?
Well, the best big town was Greensboro, of course.
Right.
But Charlotte was great. Small towns, Greenville was red hot. My God, 6,000 people every Monday night. That's where Ole got stabbed and almost killed. It was an incredibly hot market. So, trying to think. Greenville, Charleston, South Carolina was red hot. Spartanburg was. Actually, when we were rolling, there wasn't too many towns that weren't hot. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Everything was smoking. So
Matt Breeding asks on Facebook, who did you never get the chance to wrestle that you wish you could have?
John Cena.
You never worked a match with Cena the whole time you were there?
Nope, I never have. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that's odd.
Everybody else but John.
Did you ever wrestle Luthez?
Dolph Ziggler with the Spirit Squad, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit, though, not really.
What about Luthez? I don't remember seeing you wrestle him. Did that
happen?
No,
I never wrestled Lou. I knew Lou real well, but I never wrestled him. Thank God. He probably would have stretched in like he did everybody else.
What about JR's boy, Danny Hodge? Did you ever do anything with Danny?
I knew Danny very well. I never wrestled him, no. I did not.
Kyle Jodis on Facebook asks, give us a description of a typical week when you were the traveling NWA champ.
Typical week. Fly into the territory, start on Monday, and then I would work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and leave the next Monday. 9 out of 10 times, 7 straight days. And then, like as an example, I would do West Palm on Monday in Florida territory, West Palm on Monday, Tampa Tuesday, Miami Wednesday, Jacksonville Thursday, Sarasota Friday, St. Petersburg, the big building on Sunday, Orlando on Saturday, Orlando on Sunday, and then head out, to Dallas or Charlotte or Fort Worth or Tokyo, wherever I was going.
When you went into a territory back then, these days, whenever WWE comes to town, they do a radio tour to promote ticket sales. They go on local television shows. They bombard it with, taped commercials for both television and radio. They're all over the internet. What did the promoters have you do back in the days to promote the local matches when you were in town as the NWA champ?
Believe it or not, we didn't start doing a lot of radio till the 90s, you know what I mean? In the 80s, we didn't do much radio. That their television or local television was so strong with their own product that they just promoted the shows. I mean, Kansas City was the only territory that didn't sell out all the time.
So let me ask you, when you're saying that you would do their local television, if you were working in, say, Hawaii this week, but you knew that in 2 weeks you were going to be in Texas, would you film promos in Hawaii and then just send the tape to Texas so they could run it on their TV?
Exactly. That's exactly what we did. I would go to their TV each week and make interviews for the territory I was going into the next week or 2 weeks ahead.
And so it was just like a gentleman's agreement between the promoters that whoever the area promoter was would then ship the tape?
Yeah, that's when the NWA was tight. See, that's what the problems were in the islands. I didn't realize how hostile it was going to be. And they, Carlos would call me and say, we're going to go down to Trinidad and Tobago, right? He said, to make me a hot promo talking about Victor Javica. And so I said, I'm the Naitch boy. I don't like Trinidad. There's nothing about Trinidad I like. You don't like me. I don't like you. So I get off the plane, and they arrest me and put me in custody.
Oh, wow.
The guy says to me, why don't you like Trinidad? I said, I've never been here. Why wouldn't I like it? He said, you said on TV. I forgot he made the interview. Yeah, nice.
That's fantastic.
For 4 hours.
Hey, so I'm fascinated by this. Whenever somebody would book you from one territory to the other, and this is maybe something that very few people care about, but I find it fascinating, who would pay the trans? So let's say you're in Hawaii. Does the promoter who's booking you back here in the mainland have to pay the airfare to get you back?
He's supposed to, yeah. And that's one of the things that I've told you on a personal note about Bob Geigo. Didn't pay. I left my wife in the hospital to fly back on a red eye after wrestling Kerry Von Erich for Leah Maipia, who is The Rock's grandmother.
Right.
And the promoter you go to, the next promoter, is pay the trans. And I got to Kansas City, and Bob said, I'm not paying. It was $2,200 out of my pocket.
So since we're already talking about it, who was the worst promoter when it came to payoffs?
The worst promoter came to payoffs? Well, there wasn't a lot of money to pay off, but it would have to be the Kansas City territory. It was terrible. Terrible. Now, St. Louis was a great payoff town during the main event. Fortunately, I always was. Yeah, St. Louis. I mean, I hate to be picking on Kansas City, but that was a tough place to work. In turn, I'm in Portland today. My memories here, Don Owen as was the deal, paid me 10%. So
Wow.
if the house was $10,000, he gave me $1,000. If it was 20, it was $2,000. I could make a decent living out here
Yeah.
for a week.
So was Don Owen the best payoff man, or was there somebody who was maybe a little better?
Don, Jimmy Crockett, Barnett, and Paul Bosch were the best.
We got a fun question here.
Everybody wanted to go to Houston.
Now, why do you think that was? Just because out of respect for him, or because the crowds were so hot, or because it was always sold out?
It was a hot market, and Paul Bosch was a great promoter, and Paul Bosch paid good. Everybody wanted to be. It was kind of like working St. Louis. St. Louis was a great. If you were in the top 3 matches in St. Louis, and that town ran once a month, you made a lot of money. Everybody wanted to go there too.
Jeremy Brown on Facebook asks, do you have any good Ming stories? We've heard a lot of stories about how Ming's a badass and maybe bit off a dude's nose and all kinds of craziness.
That would be very true. I was there and witnessed that.
You saw him bite a guy's nose off?
A bartender, yep.
Okay.
I saw somebody make a derogatory remark about him one time in the Denny's. A cowboy in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he threw the cowboy through the bathroom door so hard it knocked the door up inches. He saved Jesse Barr from being killed in Puerto Rico. I wasn't there for the incident, but it's legendary. There were in Puerto Rico at night, the people work, on the streets, but they do it where they're like underground. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Jesse Barr stopped and thought it was funny to relieve himself on these guys, and they came out of that thing with shovels and hit Jesse Barr over the head with a shovel and were killing him until Wahoo got there, and Wahoo, meanwhile, about destroyed and killed 3 of them, walked into a bar called the Scotch Mist. It took 14 cops to get him out of there.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And then the irony of that is that he went to jail, and then he left. It was kind of like the Bobby Knight thing. They tried to get him to come back, and he's never been back since. Oh, there were 3 guys that were really bad shape. When Wahoo gets mad, man, Arn calls him the human Vegematic.
Yeah, Kevin Sullivan told me stories about seeing him in a fight one time, and he was biting him and just chunks of meat were coming out. That's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. No, listen, he saved Curt Hennig's life in East St. Louis, too. You must have heard that story. They were killing Curt Hennig, and it took, they tased him it took 20 cops again. They tased him, and he was eating the mace, just snapping a seat, and just snapping at it, right?
Right.
In East St. Louis. He doesn't go there anymore either. He's in a little town outside of Orlando and needs to be there. I saw him at Dusty's funeral, and I said, how you doing? He said, I'm good, brother. We need to get together. Okay.
We should have him on the podcast.
God, he's great. Are you kidding?
Hey, let me ask you a couple more questions.
The guy you threw out of the basketball players you threw out of the second window in Tokyo, Japan.
Did the guy live, I hope?
Yeah, they both live. 2 basketball players in Roppongi.
Okay. Talking about fights, Dick Bourne from the Mid-Atlantic Gateway asks, were you present for the Blackjack Mulligan Andre the Giant brawl on the beach?
I was. That was in Norfolk, at Virginia Beach.
What happened there? What was the story?
It was Mulligan. It was myself, Wahoo, Mulligan, Dick Murdoch, and Andre, and Jack just hauled off and punched. I said, look at me. I said, watch this. And punched Andre, and Andre grabbed him and Murdoch and dragged him out in the water and almost drowned them both. This was a young Andre in the 70s.
You got any good, a question we got a lot was about Vince McMahon natching with the Nature Boy. Do you have any good Vince McMahon stories you can share?
No, I swear to God, I've never natched him. And I thought about that question because I have couple great stories. But the greatest story, and I had to think about it because you would give me a little heads up on that, is I'm in Houston when the Mickey Rourke thing went down, where I got Mickey to come back and against Jericho, and it was Steamboat and Jimmy Snuka and me, and was Roddy in that too? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was in that.
No, Roddy was in that too, of course. So and that thing went upside down when Jericho got on CNN and challenged Mickey, and then Mickey backed out of the deal. Yeah, he never did make live TV. He just, remember, his agent didn't want him to come to Raw. They're afraid they're going to do something to ruin his career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got him reeled in. He came to Houston, and that segment worked out great. But I